when you turned 18, you were told to report to to some place to be inducted into one of the services. And you might have had some choice and might have had none. My dad was concerned that this was not a terribly good way to go. And he, without really telling me, arranged for me to go to start school, college, at Carnegie Institute of Technology in Pittsburgh. I was permitted to go down and enlist in the Navy, and in a program called V1 at the time. And the program was intended to be a basis for obtaining officers for the military, for the Navy and Marines. They said, well, you go to school for 2 years, then you're eligible to go to officers training school, which in the Navy was midshipman school. These programs were wonderful because I would have gone to college, but a lot of the people in these programs probably would never have had an opportunity to go to college. And they were very bright people, and it was great that they could do this. It was one of the nice things that came out of an awful situation. And when I graduated, they handed me my diploma, my commission as an ensign in the United States Navy, Naval Reserve. And my orders were interim orders to the West Coast. It was interesting going through Honolulu and Pearl Harbor because you could still see some of the aftermath of the Pearl Harbor bombing. And some of the ships, particularly most of the building damage had been cleaned up, and a lot of the ships had been moved out of the way, but the Arizona and a couple of the other ships were still there. The Arizona's still there now as a national memorial, but it was a moving sight. I was assigned to be a stevedore officer. I wasn't thrilled with the job, and an opportunity came in about 4 or 5 weeks to move on, and I actually had a choice between Japan and Okinawa, and then the opportunity for Japan was removed, and so I went on to Okinawa. Okinawa was devastated. There were no trees, no houses, no buildings, anything left on the island, on the south 2/3 of the island. It had been shelled by battleships and bombed, and the people who were down there survived by going underground. The natives had tombs, big tombs, which were big caves in which they buried their dead, and they retreated to tombs. They were their bomb shelters. The Japanese had their own tunnels, and so they were pretty much immune from the shelling. And so when the hostilities ceased, most of the people moved to the upper third of the island, where it was just packed with refugee camps. My job there was very interesting. I was designated an affiliate of the military government. My title was military government liaison officer for the Navy. And initially, this job had been just getting native labor for the supply depot, and they hadn't gotten any labor in. We had been down talking to the people in the villages, and the very week my leader departed, we started bringing people in to the base to work. And after we got some experience there, we began to do it for other places. We initially used just men, and then ultimately were permitted to use women. And they wanted the women, they restricted what the women were required to do. They didn't want them to have to do a lot of the difficult manual work. And but it was, we organized it, set up rules for the use of the labor, what they could do, what they couldn't do, and that sort of thing. So it was a big undertaking, but it was very satisfying. When it came time for me to go home, I went home by ship. I was mustered out of the Navy in Los Angeles, and I then worked my way home. I got the benefit of the time overseas for the GI Bill. I had enough time over there that I had they paid for my tuition and books and expenses for law school, which was wonderful. It was a great thing. And of course, a lot of people depended on the GI Bill for basic education, and it was a marvelous thing. And I hope we'll do the same thing for current veterans. World War II, of course, was quite different from other conflicts. There's no question that we had to be involved in World War II. It was a matter of survival. And there were no protests, and there was no antagonism toward the military. I think one of the worst chapters in American history was the way people treated military who went to Vietnam. They had enough problems of their own, you know, going to that terrible place. And I think that that's been corrected. I think that even though there's some antagonism to the Iraqi situation and that sort of thing, at least people seem to show respectful attitude for those who are risking their lives, and I hope that will continue. But I think we in World War II, we knew that if we lost the war, we'd be subjugated to some kind of terrible Nazism or something, and nobody wanted that. So there was total agreement this was what we had to do, and those of us who served were glad to serve. I think that's almost universal.